Democrats and corporate chieftains spent months criticizing Donald Trump for his refusal to accept legitimate election results, terming his claims of widespread fraud the big lie.
You know, Goebbels and the great lie. You keep repeating the lie, repeating the lie.
But today, it's Democrats and corporate chieftains who are peddling a new big lie.
The new Georgia election law?
It's an atrocity. They passed a law saying you can't provide water for people standing in line while they're waiting to vote. You don't need anything else to know that this is nothing but punitive, designed to keep people from voting.
Liberal activists are falsely claiming that GOP voting reform efforts are aimed at suppressing minority voters.
The losing party manufactured a lie and then used that lie to change the voting laws in the state.
Well, yes. If that's the case, then I guess the same criticism can be made of all the Democrats who supported H.R. 1, because that was also based on stuff that's not true.
The fact is that for most of last year's pandemic, states altered and weakened election laws. That's why states like Georgia are passing laws to reaffirm voting standards and restore confidence. Democrats are now branding these common sense changes racist.
Because they don't have a sound argument, they got to go bellyache and scream about race. But it is a lie. What they did in Georgia is the right thing. It actually protects the votes for all of Georgia residents, whether you're white, you're black, you're Asian, you're Hispanic, it doesn't matter. You still have the ability to go out to the polls and vote, and nobody will stop you.
The reality is that Georgia's new law expands voting opportunities, and its rules are even less restrictive than in Joe Biden's own state of Delaware.
The state of Delaware has no in-person early voting. We have 17 days. In Georgia, you don't have to have an excuse to get an absentee ballot by mail. In Delaware, you do. We have drop boxes. Delaware does not. And if you want to get a bottle of water while you're standing in line in Georgia, you can absolutely do that. The elections officials can help you with that, but you can't do that in Delaware because they don't have early voting.
Most remarkable has been the number of corporate CEOs who have succumbed to activist pressure and are now joining the left in spreading misinformation and campaigning against reform.
This legislation is unacceptable. It is a step backwards, and it does not promote principles we have stood for in Georgia around broad access to voting, around voter convenience, about ensuring election integrity, and this is frankly just a step backwards.
It appears it's not just Joe Biden that hasn't been briefed as to what's actually in the bill.
If Mr. Quincy, if the guys from New York and New Jersey who were pointing fingers at us yesterday want to have a discussion about what's actually in this bill versus what's in states like New York, where you need an excuse to vote absentee, or in New Jersey, where they're celebrating 9 days of early voting. It's the first time ever they've had it. We have 17 days, and we've been doing this for, I think over a decade now.
Among those lambasting the Georgia voting rules are some 72 current and former black corporate executives. They include Ursula Burns, the former CEO of Xerox, who is also suggesting the Georgia bill is voter suppression.
Anyone who has values in their corporation that talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion has to stand with our statement, because their employees literally are going to be affected by this type of suppression.
But referring to the situation in Georgia today as Jim Crow 2.0 lacks any factual basis, especially when looking at recent history or other states. And Governor Kemp is right when he points out what's really at play.
Biden needs to focus on things that he can control, like the southern border. And that's all this is. It's a distraction. They're using it to pass an unconstitutional mandate in H.R. 1. It's all part of a political narrative that they're pushing. And we're going to continue to fight that.